Welcome back to More Than Rice and Beans, your favorite mother son podcast celebrating all things Latinx. I'm Tania, the founder, chef, and event planner at Coqui the Chef in the Bronx, New York.
And I'm Miguel, Tania's son, and a PhD student at Johns Hopkins University studying mechanical engineering. But that sounds a lot easier than a lot of the things that our guest today is doing because she has a lot of different accomplishments.
Yes, after hearing this episode, I think everyone will feel inspired to take on a new project. Our guest today is Jacqueline Vazquez, the founder and CEO of Lifetime Events by Jacqueline. She has over 20 years of experience in the event industry and is a master wedding planner, certified wedding and event planner, and international wedding guru.
And if that wasn't enough, she's also an author, educator, mentor, and speaker, and her work has been featured around the world. Jacqueline was recently appointed CEO of Weddings Beautiful Worldwide, an education and certification powerhouse in the world of wedding planning. Within these roles and her own personal brand, Classy and Inspiring, Jacqueline strives to provide the most valuable global education, mentoring, and speaking engagements for wedding and event planners globally.
Jacqueline is the host of the Inspired by Jacqueline podcast, which features heart to heart conversations that focus on women struggling with entrepreneurship, faith, or infertility. And she does all this while planning the most stunning weddings events around the world. Phew! I get exhausted just talking about Jacqueline's accomplishments. So let's go ahead and welcome her to More Than Rice and Beans. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I got exhausted. I was like, wait a minute, who's that? So thank you
Start
for inviting me.
disassociating. So, actually, as we were looking to prepare this episode, one thing that kept on jumping out is your focus on education. So, can you tell us a bit about the role of education and mentorship, especially and how that has affected your own personal journey?
Yes, education is from the beginning of everything that I've done. And I'll give you a little glimpse that I used to be an accountant. I do have my bachelor's in business administration and majored in accounting. And so forever, it's always been a central point of everything that I do. And I continued that into my new career. And so I believe from the very beginning, I said, okay, I have a passion for this, but I need to learn more. And education just started from there. I found and connected with this amazing instructor who became my mentor. And she gave me all the tools that pushed me to the next level, pretty much, and said, you can do this. You're amazing. You are rocking this course, and I see so much potential in you. And from then on, education has not just been important to me, but I highlight it. And so I'm an advocate. I consider myself an advocate of education in anything, whether it's in other platforms or in especially in my platform, in my industry. And that's where it started.
I'm curious, how did that transition happen from accountant to wedding planner?
Everyone looks at me like, what? You were an accountant? So let me backtrack a little bit before that. When I was in school, I originally wanted to be a secretary, and that was I'm telling my age because back in the day, it was all about a career, and it was all about a business, being a secretary, working in an office. That's what it was all about. So secretary was my first choice, and then I did this summer internship with a lawyer, Fifth Avenue. And that was a highlight for me because I was like, oh, I wanted to be this top executive, maybe starting at an executive secretary and then work up from there. And when I worked for this lawyer, it was just a one-man show, lawyer at corner of Fifth Avenue and 42nd Street. And I was like, oh, this is the job that's going to help me. This is the internship. And all of a sudden, I was doing my work, all the responsibilities, And he was like, "Oh, on your way back from court, pick up my cleaners, pick up this and pick up that." And it must have been the Latina in me that was like, this is not part of my job description. So I'm going to graciously forget what that extra stuff was. And it kind of worked out because the trains, I had to take trains. So it was just so much with regards to transportation and all that, that it just conveniently worked out that by the time I got back, it was kind of late. And
Oh,
so I triggered to being the Latina. So from there, I went back to school and I said, I'm changing my major. And this was in high school. It's like, I don't want to go to anything. I think it was Catherine Gibb School for becoming a secretary, etc. And I was like, no, I want to go into a college. And I was in my junior year. And I was like, "Oh, okay. The next second thing I love is numbers. I love people. I love numbers. Let me just go into numbers." And I found accounting. And from accounting, I did that for 15 years, fast forward. And I've always had a creative side from, events that my mother had planned and things that I just came about. And I just love the creative side of planning and scheduling and just putting things together, and it made people happy. And I was doing it little by little. And then in the corporate world, I was in charge of holiday parties and in charge, and that just gave me a new perspective in life of this is making me happy. So fast forward again, I got laid off. I was able to kind of had have time to sit down and just create. And I started planning weddings, events through people recommending me. And that's basically where it started. I started also with doing invitation cards and creative things. And that led me more into the planning.
So you had a hidden talent. It was just waiting,
Yes, yes.
waiting for that day to come out.
Yes, and I always knew that accounting was not my forever career because I did not plan to take the CPA. I That was like your next level, become a certified public accountant. That was always not me. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And I was happy with it. I did also like psychology, so I think all of that, all of those interests has really progressed my business today. The
Yeah,
organization, the, being on, dotting my I's and crossing my T's, that doing that for 15 years, that, and the latter part of my accounting journey was doing payroll. So being around so many people, having leadership roles as a supervisor, as a manager, as a director. So all of that just helped me in this new journey that I wanted to venture.
well, also just within like the minutia of dealing with taxes from a
Oh
new
yeah.
company.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
know my mom has a lot of heartaches with that.
It's not fun. Taxes were always one of my things that I stayed away from. And mind you, now I do my own taxes, but I it was not my pet peeve. I just had a pet peeve about it. I was like, "Ah, let me stay away from it." So I
Yeah.
kind of did everything else in accounting but that.
well, what's also a great thing is that when I get something from, let's say, the IRS, and I don't understand the letter, and I have to take it to my accountant or my bookkeeper, you understand their verbiage, their communication,
Yes.
and you don't have to be like, "What is this? Oh my god!" And we start pulling your hair. But I'm like, "Oh my god, what do I do with this?" But the understanding the language is super important for an entrepreneur because you definitely don't want to stress out for something. Maybe it might be pretty simple.
Hmm.
So actually going back into some of the event planning stuff, as you were kind of starting out in event planning, what what were some of the things that like needs that you were seeing weren't really being met for a lot of event planning programs?
Well, when I first started, there was a need for, I know I needed someone to support me as far as just not my mentor. I had my mentor, but she was long distance. So I needed more guidance as far as in person, knowing how to do things, showing me things. And there was not a lot of that. There was a lot of territorial things going on. And so it took me a little more time to learn things. So that's what I brought into the platform a few years later after I started gaining knowledge. I wanted to be that person, have that platform to show others, here's how to do it. Here's, I'm here for you.
And so what has been some of your best like teacher moments or best success stories?
Oh my gosh. There are many, but I will say only because these are more current things going on. I was a so I transitioned, not transitioned, but I added to planning events. I taught a course for a different platform for 6 years. And throughout that time, it was like 3 days a week, a 10-week course in person. So I had between 25 to 35 students. Some of them kind of weaned out after saying, wait a minute, this is a lot of work. I don't want to be here. I didn't think it was going to be that. I thought I was going to hold a binder and just tell people what to do. Yeah, that's not what it's about. But those who remained and graduated, I can tell you there's so many, but there are three that just jump to mind. These are like my best teacher moments. Sometimes, like the other day, I just came to tears because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of them. And so it's just best teacher moments is giving back and seeing that fruit just come back
Mhm.
to you, from a student, as a graduate, asking me, she's sharing what her gut feeling is, where she feels she wants to use her experience. And I asked her, it's like, what about it makes you happy? What's motivating you to share this? And she's described what it was. And I said, I believe in you. And from what I've seen, you can do it. And so follow it. And right now, she's an educator in event planning. She teaches, she's rocking it. And I'm so proud of her. There's another graduate who took the event planning course and the design course that I was doing, and she ended up doing flowers, another certification, a different certification, and she found her passion there. But she always was like, I there's something else that's missing. And when she found her true passion in florals, I said, just do your magic, and she's just grown to a different level. To another graduate who traveled from Atlanta every week to take my course, and just one day course every week would travel from Atlanta to New York, and would go back same day. And she has grown. I think she worked for a very high end design company, and her goal was to be a top rated floral designer because it was her passion, but she wanted to learn some things about design. And she's like, oh, you motivated me. And I introduced her to certain people in the industry that she was looking to enhance herself and rock that platform. I'm so proud of just not just these three examples, but everyone who really took to heart what I shared and applied it.
How did that feel that somebody was willing to travel that far?
Oh my God, that alone was a motivator for me. I was like, I
Yeah.
was in the high sky. I was this flying high. I was like, this person is like, I must be doing a good job because
Yeah.
she's flying out every single week and just coming for this course. That's it. And that was a huge honor for me.
Wow. Okay. All right. I really love that you strive to bring an interconnectedness to everything you do. It's about building a global community and learning to appreciate the other cultures, which is, of course, right up my alley. Why do you think expanding our horizons beyond just the city and culture we're based is important?
Well, why not?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when people say the sky's the limit, you're only limiting yourself if you have a choice. You either limit yourself or you step outside of that box. And I've always been about being unique, being myself, and owning my unique value. and my unique way of doing things. Again, going back to my mentor and the organization that I chose to first study with, event and wedding planning, that offered me and led me into different opportunities. And that was opportunities that I had the choice to say yes or no to. And with that said, I had the opportunity to first, on a national level, I was invited. This was a few years after I graduated that course. It was back in 2010. And she was like, "Oh, we're having a seminar for the organization in Vegas, and we would love for you to speak." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I just took the course like 4 years ago, and here I am being invited to speak in Vegas? Like, oh my gosh." So she had faith in me like no other. And she was like, "Yeah, you can do this." And I was like, "Okay." And I did. I have the great support of my husband, who also is a speaker and a motivator. And so he kind of guided me. That was kind of like my first opportunity to speak. And that was before I started teaching. And it just was like a high for me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this. I have this opportunity and this platform to share." So from there, I was able to kind of be on their radar, the organization's radar. And when there was an opportunity from Japan, they have different licensees in Japan, in China, in Ecuador, Paraguay, in the Caribbean, and Africa. So those are all of their licensees, and in Philippines. And so when the Japan licensee reached out to the office, they were like, "Oh, we wanted to send some students to New York for a 3 day kind of like workshop or fam trip workshop, educational." And they called me, and I was like, "Yes." And they send about 3 students with a translator. And that was again another high for me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, not only am I able to have this opportunity that they're trusting me, but I have an opportunity to share from, me. They're able to see me and who I am and how I share it." And not only was that a rewarding experience for me, but also for them, that they keep me on the radar for
Yeah.
anything else. And that led into, again, going to another licensee, China. They
Mm-hmm.
requested me to travel to China to speak to their students. And I mean, talk about highs. I kept on like getting more and more. And that was a week in China. That was the most memorable time. And the experience was so surreal, because the students that were there, the members of the organization in China, they were just sponges, and they were like looking for all of that information. They welcomed me. I didn't feel like an outcast. I didn't feel like out of place. I felt like a family. And we had pictures and groups and selfies and all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Mind you, I did have a translator, and she became part of my family. And it was just this genuineness. And that's what I kind of share with everyone. And that's China, led into Ecuador as well. I went to Ecuador to speak, same organization, different licensee. Um, and what I feel, this has really grown my business on a global basis with regards to on an educational and um, just a level of skills that people are looking for, and I'm able to offer that opportunity. I'm always willing. And that is really important, to step out of the box and think further outside of I'm a girl from grew up in the Bronx, and I'm like traveling globally, sharing knowledge with people on a global basis. This is a shy girl that was afraid of her own shadow
I can
doing
relate. I can relate.
this.
I had to wear a mascot costume to hide my face, so a huge frog costume.
So I was afraid to read in class. I was afraid to do so many different things. And here I am just sharing and being a light to others. So that really has enlightened me personally, but also it just skills that keep on growing my platform and my business on a different level.
So I want to get a little bit of better understanding on this. Before you became an educator, you had these public speaking
Yes,
engagements.
yes,
Did this lead you to become an educator? Because
yes.
I've heard that in order for you to be comfortable with public speaking, you should be an educator. And I always
I
thought
was a
about
speaker
that
first.
because
Yes,
it really does help.
yes, it
You
does.
okay. So you found it, you eased your way into education because of the public speaking.
And so I'll share that it wasn't a goal of mine because again, I'm like, okay, who am I? I still felt, even though I was in like 5 or 6 years of planning, I still felt like I was a newbie. I was still starting, but people believed in me. And my husband, I think he had a conversation with God and he wrote down everything I was going to be doing.
Oh, wow.
And this was before I was invited to speak in 2010. And so he said, "You're going to be speaking, you're going to be teaching," because he said he saw my potential. He was a speaker for years, he's been a motivator for years, and all this stuff. And he's like, "I see your potential. You're coming from a genuineness, and you're amazing in what you're offering. So, with that said, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a mentor, you're going to be speaking, you're going to be on TV, on magazines, and I just checked off the last thing, which was being on TV. Not personally, but my name was shouted out on News 11 a few weeks ago. But I've been on magazines, and so everything that he has listed, I've already checked off. Traveling and just, it's just been amazing that I never had this in my goals, but it just happened only because I feel that I have full confidence in my unique value and what I have to offer. I'm not doing it to impress anybody. I'm doing it because people know that I care and that I'm giving them some real information. And I'm coming from a sort of like a down to earth. I'm speaking to them eye to eye versus I'm up here from stage and speaking directly down to you. So again, my teacher, my mentor, she saw the potential. So she started me off on that level with speaking. And that kind of gradually led me into the education. And I've been speaking internationally.
So you also mentioned that you're from the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Y tiene apellido Vázquez.
Vasque.
Dime un poco, ¿eres puertorriqueña, dominicana, Guatemala? Dime.
Soy puertorriqueña. My
Ah,
parents are
100%?
from 100%. My mom is from Bayamón, Puerto Rico, and my father is from Orocovis, the center and heart of Puerto Rico.
Pues sí, Orocovis, al lado de Orocovis está el Bonito y Barranquitas, Miguel, where you came from.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there
And
you
I
go.
Also,
so, but
Moa, your
I
whole
call myself
family's
a New
from Bayamon.
Yorican.
What was that again,
Wow.
Jacqueline?
I said, so I consider myself New Yorican as well.
Yeah.
Sí. So entonces, vamos a hablar un poco de tus padres. Vinieron, when did they migrated from Puerto Rico?
So my mom, she graduated high school and she's very like she loves the fact that she graduated. She always makes it a point. I graduated high school. I went to high school in the evening and worked during the day. And so she graduated high school. And once she did, she just ventured out to New York and she was a seamstress. She's always loved to be sewing when she was growing up. So she went into that. She was sewing in Puerto Rico. And when she graduated, she ended up in the garment district, working for some top factories. And she's always been a seamstress. She retired from it quite a few years ago, always worked in factories and always enjoy hearing her piece way, which is piece work. And it was an eye opener for me because I was like, okay, you want me to go to college, but I'm trying to understand how you are just working in a factory and doing, working, bringing home work. And she had a sewing machine at home, and she was just sewing to make a better life for me. My father, he just had 2-year education and he just worked in the fields with my grandfather, and that's where it started from for him. And then he came to New York. I don't know exactly when he came to New York because I grew up with my mother, and but I know that when he came, he was a hard worker as well, and he did, little things here and there, but always working hard, and they both did. So that's pretty much it. And they come from a large family. My father's one of 15. He was, because he passed away, one of 15, and my mom is one of 9.
Wow, big family.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
huge.
Well, they didn't have TV back then.
exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't have Netflix and all that stuff.
The
All
kids were
right.
the TV.
Yeah, there were enough entertainment. That's
Exactly.
it.
So actually going into that part of you of being a Latina, how has that affected you in creating your business? And were there any unique challenges associated with that? Or did it help you?
I've always wanted to answer that question, because I always keep people thinking, only because, again, going back to that unique part of who I am. When I was young, in, let's say, junior high, or between junior high and high school, I always heard that word, minority. And from the get go that I heard that word and what it meant, I always said to people and to myself, I am not a minority. I am Jacqueline Vazquez. Like, I'm not going to be put in a box. And this was before I even understood myself. I just always knew that a minority was not something I was going to consider and put myself in that box. And so I've always thought of being a Latina as just being a culturally enjoying myself in the culture. I've never seen it as a challenge. I don't put myself in the box of being in a challenge role of someone's going to look at me and it's going to limit me. I don't like to limit myself, and I've that's one thing that I've always believed in. I don't limit myself as a woman. I don't limit myself by my culture, being Latina, being Puerto Rican, being looked at like I'm Latina and Puerto Rican. And I am really adamant about that because I believe that my skills alone, if you believe in me, if you want to work with me, if you want to invest in my time, it's because you believe in me, in Jacqueline Vasquez. And so I stay away from the stigmatism or the stereotype of, oh, I'm Latina, so I have to do things differently. I have to work harder. It's all in the mindset. So I've never really let anyone control the fact that I'm Latina and I should be think different.
What advice would you give with someone who has that mindset? That has like, oh, I'm Latina, I have to work harder, or I'm Latina, you see me cleaning more, or my work ethics are different, or this and that. And people point that out because they do that to me all the time. It's like, oh, you're Puerto Rican, your work ethics must be different from everybody else. You must work harder. And I'm
Mm,
thinking to myself, and then I actually find myself working harder. And like, why? What advice would you give me for
I
that
would just
person who thinks
say,
like that? That I'm basically
yeah,
talking about myself.
I would just genuinely, very genuinely say, take a step back. Just look at who you are and what you offer and what you're meant, what is your purpose here in life? And your purpose might change all throughout your journey. I would just simply say, believe in yourself. Disregard, you're here for a purpose and you're meant to do something. And just continue being you. Once you know and you feel in your gut that this is who you are, this is my journey, it's you, just own it. And that is taking apart, putting to the side anything that anybody may look at you a different way or may say something. I have like closed ears when once I start hearing negativity or anything like that. I keep it going. Like, and if I enter into a space that I don't feel good in, I leave. It's like my husband times me now. He's like, "Oh, okay, let's see how long you're going to be here." But it's just because I'm not going to let that negativity in. So I would just share, be yourself. And being yourself is embracing who you are as a Latina woman, and a Puerto Rican woman, but also embracing your knowledge, who you are, and who you're meant to be, your unique value and your purpose. And that should, and just close out any negativity, because there's going to be so many challenges. This is another thing. Come, listen to your heart as to what you're going to let in. There's so many challenges that we come across, that it should be about what time do you want to invest in, right? Because our time is what, 24 hours in a day, and we're business, we're, personal, we're doing so many different things, different platforms that we're handling, and there's so much time that goes into that. Now you have to think about how much time you're going to invest on negativity. You have to pick
Yeah.
and choose your battles.
Yeah. I like that.
I,
Thank
I
you.
cherish my time so much. And every year and every journey, because your journey changes throughout your life. I have this saying: what's important now may not have been important yesterday, and may not be important tomorrow. So you have to kind of shift your mindset to follow your purpose, keep on your purpose, keep your journey, and that might change later or not, but it's just owning who you are and believing in
At
yourself.
the moment.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. I have to imagine that one of the best parts of event and wedding planning at your level is the incredible food you get to incorporate into your events. And I'm dying to ask you a few questions about that. So, what was the most delicious wedding food you've ever experienced?
Wow. Being a planner, that's kind of like putting me on in front of like so many people, so many caterers, right? Like which one was the best? I've had I would say I've had different, depending on the caterer, depending on the location, the event. There's been one that has provided excellent services and food. The food was just totally amazing, just fresh and just great and amazing. I can't say anything more than that. And then I've been to places that it's like, uh, this could be better. But you know what? As a planner, what's more important to me is the taste is important, but what's also just as important is the quality and the service that goes into it. So when you have great food, but then the service sucks, that kind of tones everything, just puts everything to the side. It's like, you know what? The taste was not even worth it, because I I felt that the quality was bad and the service was bad. So it's a whole package.
Yeah, that is true. Wow. Okay. All right.
Okay, Jacqueline. Vamos a hablar sobre comida de tu familia. So my mom's business really started from reinventing her abuela's recipes, my bisabuela's recipes. And so, are there any recipes or family traditions that kind of influenced maybe some of the things that you do in your event planning or led to event planning?
Yeah, not so much recipes, but more of a tradition, experiences. And so those are memorable moments for me. Not so, the actual event, the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day were great, but those were more of the memorable traditions for me that I keep to heart. The year before pandemic, I actually recorded the last time that my mom actually did the pasteles, because I saw that she was kind of transitioning into a different level, and she was actually diagnosed with dementia. And so I was so happy that I recorded that, because it was the last time she did the pasteles. And so I have that as a memory. Not only, am I able to relive it in my mind, my heart, but also I have a video that hopefully is going to make me perfect the pasteles like she did. Because
It's
I'm
a
not
lot of
there
work.
yet, but yeah.
Is there any advice for people who are interested in pursuing a career in event planning industry or becoming an entrepreneur in general?
So for people who are looking to become an event planner, entering this world, this beautiful world that they see, because visually you see something, and then once you venture in, it's like, wait a minute, this is a lot of work, not
Oh,
what I
yeah.
expected. And so I would say set real expectations. And by that, I mean, you know, I'm a teacher. I know that people look at me to gain knowledge. But one thing that I always say, and I share this in my book, that you can learn from someone, you can admire someone who is at a top level in the industry, or teacher, educator, but at the end of the day is for you to take tips and parts of those knowledge, um, nuggets, and apply them, but find yourself first. Find what's valuable about you in this journey that's going to enhance those tips, right? Those tips are to kind of give you an idea of things to work on things to look forward to. But who is Tania, right? Who is Tania looking to be in the event planning world? And just kind of like write down a list of what is unique about Tania, and what's going to enhance your clients' expectations, what's going to enhance your journey, and what's going to put you in a direction that you're going to continue to love this journey. Because there's going to be a lot of challenges, there's going to be a lot of setbacks. And so it's how you put yourself in preparing yourself and put yourself back together when those challenges come about. So yeah, it's just really setting those real expectations. One of the things also is that we're told to create a business plan. A business plan is just that, a business plan, and you should have one. But one thing that is not really spoken about is, what's your personal plan with your business, right? Because you're working, but you also have a personal life. And that goes back to what I say, which is, what's important today is not was not important yesterday, may not be important tomorrow. And it's just as real, because maybe 10 years after you start your business, you get married, you have kids. So it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Maybe you're caring for a parent, which is my situation now. So it's a different mindset. I still love the event planning journey, but now I'm doing less events because now I have to put more time into my personal life in caring for my mother. So there's a different perspective in everyone's journey that's unique to them. So say to yourself, what's important to Tania today, and what's your expectations? And set real expectations based on that.
All right. I'm going to take pen and paper right after this podcast, and I'm going to write down what's important to Tania.
Yes.
All right. You too, Miguel. You follow. You already know. He's like, Mom, I work for NASA. I'm fine.
I love it. It's like I love that you have a different platform than each other, and just creating this amazing platform. I just love it. So
Yeah. Actually, we have grown a lot together throughout like 2 years we've been doing this, right? Podcasting.
I feel like I was a lot more reserved in the beginning.
Yeah, we were a bit shy. Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
it's
now
a
we're like
learning
loosened up a little bit.
experience. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
learning experience.
So, what are you currently working on? What's next for you? Where can we spot you out in the wild?
Whereas when I first started, I was a part of local organizations, and I was on boards, and I was teaching, and I was planning, and I was like doing a list of things. And so every year or every few years, things change for me. So currently, I am just added a third platform, which was added last year, kind of like a soft opening, a soft launch. It's not officially a full launch yet, but I wanted to get it started. So I have my business, which is one platform, Lifetime Events by Jacqueline, and I still do event planning. My second platform is more about my personal brand, which is classy and inspiring. And if you go to my homepage on classyandinspiring.com, that homepage tells you everything that I do. It's like a picture of me, but with different things identifying everything that I do. And that's my journey. And the new third platform, which I really, really am excited about as well, is me, Jacqueline Vazquez, and kind of like me, the person, and what my journey has been. And then this year I started. I think in mid January or February, I started with my podcast. Now, the podcast is going to be talking, it's me pretty much sharing information because it's kind of like a tools and resources platform. I have some future things that are going to be coming, that will be added to the journey of Inspired by Jacqueline. So I have, hopefully, that'll be before the end of the year.
Well, we also have your information on the show notes, so whoever's interested can
Awesome.
definitely check the show notes too and just click on the links. All right, so before we let you go, I'd like to ask you a few rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite place you've ever been?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
That was the
I
idea.
have to, you know what? It used to be a town in Mexico called, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I forgot the name, but it's the town Taxco, Taxco. It's the town that they make silver.
Oh,
And it's a very quaint, amazing, beautiful town. They have a church that inside the church is like 24 karat gold leaf. It's just
wow.
the town, the food, the people, totally amazing. But I think there are two other locations that I have to plug and say. San Miguel in Mexico, beautiful town, amazing. Um, but in Italy, in I went to Palermo, and we went on a little drive to Shefula. I hope I'm saying it the right way, but it's Shefula, beautiful quaint town. So I love quaint towns. I love towns that are so homey. You could feel people's cultures and traditions and embrace their food and all that stuff. So if I was to say, it's like I just love nice small towns that really bring out what is all great about them. Have you been
But
to Italy?
no, I haven't even. The only place I've been to in Europe is Barcelona, Spain,
Hmm.
and I want
Yeah.
to go. I want to travel. And Miguel's always bragging, like, "Oh, I've been to Italy. I've been here. I've been
I've been
there."
to a lot of places.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Show off!" Like, really? Like, I tasted the best sake ever, Mom, and the best whiskey. And I'm like, "Really? I hate you
Right,
right
she's
now."
saying that because I just came back from
Yeah,
Japan like last
yeah.
week.
And I love whiskey, and I'm like, I want to learn about whiskey. He's like, and I told him in Japan, they make fabulous whiskey
Oh,
because
I gotta now I gotta
everything in
taste
Japan
that.
is like made better than us.
Yeah.
So he tasted homemade
Yeah.
whiskey.
Yeah, I
Wow.
went to a few bars where the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I just make this whiskey like in in my house." I was
Well,
like,
that
"Okay,
is
cool." It
awesome.
was very good, yeah.
That reminds me of the story Miguel told me when he was in small towns in Italy, and he said that usually when you don't like you look like a tourist, that you have all these people. What's the story, right, Miguel? You tell it because I don't want to tell your story.
I'm confused as to what
Uh,
story you're talking about.
the story of when you're in a small town in Italy, you said that you look Italian
Oh
versus
yeah,
a
I mean,
Latino.
yeah. So when I was in Italy, well, I mean, part of it was I had like a tote bag, like a Merce, and then I would put on like headphones and walk around like that, and everyone just immediately assumed that I was Italian. There were a few people that came up to me asking for directions in English, asking me for directions, but like they were like saying it very slowly
Like if you
because they
were
didn't
from there.
expect me to know English. And then there was like one guy that was like coordinating this event that thought that I was part of the event. It was honestly insane. I was very surprised.
Wow. And it's those towns, they just make you feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You do have another story of when you were biking in this little field and a bunch of pigs were after
Oh,
you.
that was in Barcelona. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Barcelona. I decided to go biking on my own in the countryside because I wanted to see the countryside. I was like in the city or Barcelona city for so much that I wanted to go out and explore. So I just took a bike and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go along the shoreline and see where I end up. And then I eventually found this like little patch where there was like when I was coming back, I saw like a glimpse of something and I was like, what is that? And I started going close and I realized it was a pig. And then as I continued biking, I realized it was a cluster of pigs and they were all coming down the hill, chasing after me.
Well, you lucky it wasn't bulls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, all I saw were pigs and I saw a bunch of sheep at some point, but there was a guy herding them. So I was
Got
safe
it.
from the sheep.
So the moral of the story is visit little towns.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Outdoor event or indoor event?
Oh my God, that's a difficult question now in the state that I am, because I have this fascination now with outdoor events because they're more
Mm-hmm.
challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I I think I would go with outdoor events because of the challenge.
Live music or DJ?
Oh, if it's the right DJ, I would say DJ because you can have a DJ that totally sucks and brings and doesn't know how to read the crowd, because you
Oh
have to be
yeah.
experienced in that. You can't just say I'm a DJ and expect to, I DJ it at clubs or I DJ at little events and expect to be hired to do a wedding. There's an expectation for each event, whether it's a corporate, a wedding, a birthday, there's an expectation. So if you don't know how to read the crowd and know what they need to get up and dance, then, there's a difference there. So an experienced DJ, I would go with that. But also, a band adds some fun and interactiveness to it because you see all these people are just playing the drums to the horns to everything, the strings, and then just having the people out there dancing and singing. It kind of brings more motivation. So there's a little bit of both.
Destination wedding or hometown wedding?
Destination weddings, not so much because I love to travel, but also because, again, it goes back to that the logistics and the challenges. Like, I have a destination wedding in Puerto Rico coming up this year.
One thing every event needs to be memorable.
From the perspective of a client, I would say for an event to be memorable, they need to set real expectations, but also include something that, when guests come to the event, that they know it's them, that it's not made up. It's like, oh, why did they do this? This is not what they do or what they like, or so it's, if you could bring in people together, it's to bring them together to acknowledge, whether it's a wedding, two people who either friends know or family know, and it's like, oh yeah, this is who they are, versus doing something totally different that doesn't really go with who you are, and people can't relate, they can't connect, they're trying to figure out, okay, why is this going on, and they're not able to enjoy the experience. From a planner's perspective, I would say just making it memorable. It's all about the experience, making it memorable based on the experience that you want. What is the end goal? Find what brings together all the five senses so that people are able to enjoy it. And it's not just a moment in time. It's an experience that they're able to take and remember for years to come.
Thank you for listening to this episode of More Than Rice and Beans, and a special thank you to our guest, Jacqueline Vazquez. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to spread the word about our show. If you'd like to support our work directly, you can follow the link in the show notes to become a monthly contributor.
And if you're interested in planning a fun event for yourself or your organization, check out our virtual and in-person experiences at coquithechef.com. Our team can create a custom event including a perfect menu, decor, entertainment that will delight your guests. We'll see you next time. Say goodbye, Jacqueline.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.